Let's talk about Kindle Vella. In this short video, I'm going to introduce you to Kindle Vella and then tell you how I use it as part of my writing practice. I write both fiction and nonfiction, and I use Vella in basically the same way for both. So I'll have some fiction examples, and then I'll talk a little bit about nonfiction when we get to that. So historically, Amazon launched Kindle Vella in July of 2021 as a way to create a new, at least for them, reader experience. The target reading experience for Kindle Vella is for readers to unlock episodes and read on their smartphone. Because Kindle Vella episodes have to be between 600 and 5,000 words, most episodes can be read in 10 or 15 minutes. This is perfect for sitting on public transportation or waiting in a doctor's office or waiting in a long line somewhere. A story on Kindle Vella might only be about 10 episodes, or it could be hundreds of episodes. One person at Amazon recommended that I think of storytelling in Kindle Vella like a comic book. One comic may have 10 or 20 episodes and tell a complete story, never to return to those characters or that world. Another comic book may use the same characters literally for decades. Hello, Superman. Telling multiple stories for the same group of characters over multiple issues. Readers have access to an episode as soon as the author publishes it. So there's no need to complete a story for readers to start engaging with it. That said, some Kindle Vella readers will hesitate to spend tokens, I'll talk about that in a minute, on a story that's not finished, since there aren't any requirements that an author actually finish a story. Right now, Kindle Vella is only available for U.S. publishers who are publishing in English. That's as of May of 2024. Okay, now let's talk about how readers pay for the stories. Like everything else on Amazon, Kindle Vella stories are for sale. In March of 2024, Amazon made some changes to the way Kindle Vella episodes are purchased and read. So this is up to date as of May of 2024. Readers buy tokens in bundles of 100, 300, 900, or 2,000. Right now, 100 tokens costs 99 cents, or about a penny a token. A reader has access to the first 10 episodes of any story for free, and there are some student accounts where they get access to all the episodes for free. But after the 10 episodes, they'll have to exchange 10 tokens to unlock and read that 11th episode. You can do the math, but to help you out, if they bought 100 tokens for 99 cents, they're paying about 10 cents, 9.9 cents, for a single episode because a token costs a little more than a penny. The math is different if they bought a larger bundle. However, if they bought 2,000 tokens for $16.79, each token costs 0.8 of a cent, so unlocking that 11th episode will cost about 8 cents. But in short, a single episode on Kindle Vella is pretty cheap. All right, so how do writers publish on Kindle Vella? You publish episodes of your Kindle Vella story through your KDP account. So the first step is setting up a KDP account, which includes setting up the bank account where Amazon is going to pay you. After that, publishing on Kindle Vella, I don't think, could be easier. When you open up Kindle Vella, there's a big button on the top right that says Start a Story. Setup is easier than an ebook or a paperback in KDP, at least I thought it was. You enter your title, the author, a description, some tags for your genre, and an image, and you're good to go. Quick note on the image. Kindle Vella has a standard cover design where they put your title and author name on the bottom of the image, and it's oriented to sort of fit on a smartphone. But it means you don't have to worry about a full cover design with an image, title, other features, just a single image. For my Vella stories, I've used either simple graphics that I've made in Canva, or I've used photographs of my own. That was pretty fun. After that, you just click Create New Episode, and you can either type right into the text field, you can import a doc or docx file, or you can do what I do and just cut and paste from whatever place you do your writing. I write in a product called Scrivener, and when I'm done with that episode, I copy out of Scrivener and then paste it into the Vella text field. The Kindle Vella text field has a spell check that's pretty great for helping out as well. That's one of my final checks of an episode. Once you've typed in your episode, there's a preview button, which I absolutely recommend. I find because the typical reader experience is on a smartphone, and I think readers don't really like long blocks of text, that sometimes a block of text is just a couple of lines that probably really couldn't be called a paragraph, but I believe it works visually. You also have an option for a survey. Amazon wants very much to create a dialogue between authors and readers. So you can create a survey asking readers what they'd like to see next or something like that. And you can, at least in theory, use that to guide the story development. Personally, I don't get enough survey responses or enough comments in a timely enough fashion. Comments are another feature that readers can use to communicate with authors. I don't get those back in a timely enough fashion to guide the story, but they're nice to see. Okay, finally, you get to schedule the publication. I find this really handy, especially if I'm trying to stick to a regular cadence like a weekly publication. If I'm on a roll, I can write 3 or 4 episodes, then schedule them out weekly to keep that consistency. And just like that, you submit your episode for publication. They'll tell you that it takes up to 72 hours for a new episode to go live, but in my experience, it's usually about a day or less. All right, let's talk about how writers get paid. I'm going to use a fiction example here, but it's the same for nonfiction. The numbers might be a little different. I'll talk about that at the end. Okay, imagine that you are an author. You are, right? That's why you're here. And you write 2 stories, Dragons of Earth and Dragons of Mars. You can see where my mind is. You write Dragons of Earth as a standalone, long-form novel in 70,000 words, which is more or less an average length for a novel. You write that over a year, and you put the ebook up for sale on Amazon for $9.99. If you have a 70% royalty plan for your ebook, and the sale meets all the criteria for a 70% royalty, you'll make $6.99 on Dragons of Earth. For easier math, I'm leaving off any digital file delivery costs or taxes. Dragons of Mars is also about 70,000 words, but you publish in episodes as a Kindle Vella story. Now, let's say you average 800 words per episode. Remember that the minimum is 600 and the maximum is 5,000. At 800 words per episode, it will take you 88 episodes, technically 87.5, to get to that 70,000 word count. If the average price is about 9 cents per episode, a reader will end up spending just under $7.92 for that story. In Kindle Vella, authors get 50% royalty, again, ignoring any additional fee for easy math. So you'll get $3.96 for a similar story of about a similar length. Side note, if you went for the maximum word count in your Kindle Vella episodes, because you're a maximum word count kind of person, you'd only publish 14 episodes. A reader will pay the same 10 tokens, or about 9 cents for each of those episodes. So the gross sale is about $1.26, and your half is 63 cents. For me, and I have to say this is just my preference, and there are definitely other considerations like the integrity of your story and what your readers want most, but just for me, I'd rather write shorter episodes in Kindle Vella and maximize that revenue math. The other variable is the Kindle Vella bonus that pays out to authors. Similar to the Kindle Unlimited payout for ebook pages read, the Kindle Vella bonus amount will vary depending on free and paid tokens used, reader follow and fave engagement, which is another way that readers can engage with your story, and other components as well. So this is an attempt to compare apples to apples between Kindle Vella and a Kindle ebook. In the Kindle Vella story, you'll make about 40% less than you would from the ebook. Side note, I ran the same numbers for a book that's about 40,000 words, which is pretty average for a nonfiction book. Fiction or nonfiction doesn't matter for this comparison, but with 30,000 fewer words and with Kindle Vella customers still getting your first 10 episodes for free, this shorter book, you're going to make about 68% less from the Kindle Vella series than you would from the ebook. So all of this is pretty bleak on the Vella side. And I'll add to that bleakness by saying that Kindle Vella's design and most of what I see on the platform today is fiction. It really does lend itself to telling fictional stories in a serialized way. So that means your ideal nonfiction reader may not be as inclined for that reading format as they might for an ebook or a paperback. Okay, but all that is not the whole story. Here's how I use Kindle Vella for writing fiction. I love to read and I love to write. But on the occasions when I've sat down to write a novel, even with good outlining and paying attention to a 3-act structure, the process is daunting. 70,000 words is a whole lot of words to string together into something coherent. But I found that about 800 words is totally doable. I use Kindle Vella as a way to keep myself writing. I have 2 stories in Kindle Vella right now. When they're finished, my plan is to unpublish them from Kindle Vella, do a little cleanup, and then publish them on KDP as a standard novel. Side note, Amazon is totally okay with this within a few parameters that you can read about on their help page. By writing this way, I sit down in each writing session with a goal of getting between 800 to 1,000 words. Editing often brings it down. And more importantly, a goal of giving my characters something clear to accomplish. Yes, there is an overarching plot, and yes, there are twists and turns, but for each episode, I just worry about the immediate scene for my characters. Then I get to actually publish the episode and feel that sense of accomplishment that it's out there for my readers. For the kind of writer that I am, Kindle Vella has become a great way to develop a story over time. Now, I'll say that there is a danger of not knowing when or how to end a story, so I do eventually outline the main story beats, but not until I'm about 2/3 of the way through. Now, in writing nonfiction, I use Kindle Vella so I can spend more time writing what's important and getting bogged down in the outlining. Don't get me wrong, I have an outline for nonfiction even more than for fiction, but it evolves as the writing progresses. My nonfiction work is typically in leadership or business of some sort. When I've written a nonfiction book, there's been so much work in outlining and planning that I have at times gotten bogged down, and it's been difficult to get through the slog and just get finished. However, with Kindle Vella, I just take it a topic at a time. Recently, in a book about leadership, specifically performance management, I knew I wanted to include a chapter about positive reinforcement. So I started with a question I've gotten before. What is positive reinforcement, and why is it helpful to me as a people leader? Well, it's easy for me to answer that question verbally. So I started with the question I've gotten before. What is positive reinforcement, and why is it helpful to me as a people leader? It's easy for me to answer that question verbally, and it's similarly easy for me to write the answer to that question. In this Kindle Vella chapter or episode about positive reinforcement, I'm not worrying at this point about where it's going to fit in the final book. I can figure that out when I pull it all together. I'm also not worrying about my section on negative reinforcement. That's for another day if I even decide to include it. I've had way more experience writing in short sections, so writing my book through a series of Kindle Vella episodes lets me get my best thinking out and published so I can move on to the next topic. I still have an outline, and I update the outline as needed when I finish each episode. For example, I may decide that positive reinforcement needs more than one episode, and I decide that literally when I get into the writing. All right, so to wrap all this up, that is the gist of how I'm currently using Kindle Vella. Other writers will have other experiences. You should totally listen to them if their experience more closely matches yours. But for me, there are some benefits from writing on Kindle Vella. One, whether fiction or nonfiction, all I have to focus on in a given writing session is a single scene or topic. I can write everything I need to write in that episode without getting caught up in a larger focus of the book. Two, because it's so easy to publish and because the first 10 episodes are free, I can easily get my advanced readers to give me feedback on those first several episodes. And after that, tokens are cheap enough that my advanced readers have so far not minded continuing with more episodes. Three, I do make a little money while the book is in development. Between the Kindle Vella bonus and getting a few readers, I typically make a few bucks each month. Does not make a huge difference, but it does keep me motivated. Four, and I think this is my main point, writing short episodes, whether it's in fiction or nonfiction, actually keeps me motivated, so I keep writing. These bite-sized episodes are so much easier to wrap my head around. So that's all. I wish you much luck and success in publishing on Kindle Vella.